by the blood of our people are your lands kept safe.
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
I really like the orcs here. I love the costumes. I thought that the acting from the orc actors is spot on. So yeah, all in all, I thought this was it's a solid episode. Not as much action, and a little bit lore heavy for some of the more casual fans, I will say.
And we didn't get Elrond or the dwarves.
No. So if those are your favorite characters, you would have been.
And I mean, I don't know what the consensus is. I think some people are annoyed at the Elrond character, but I think he's quite likable.
I really like so.
I like he's like because Elrond's supposed to be like a really nice elf, right? He's welcoming.
Yes.
And I thought Hugo Weaving just got kind of a harsh face to him. Like
yeah. So like now that you mention it, Hugo Weaving does have that quality where when you look at him, he almost just his face alone gives off the ego, the harshness of an elf.
Right. And I think the actor they have playing Elrond now, he comes off as kinder. His kinder face features anyway.
And the thing is, I don't see that as a contradiction. I can see how Elrond, a younger Elrond, who's trying to really understand the world from the perspective of all the other races, how over time and seeing the failures of the dwarves, the failures of men, how he might get jaded and become the Elrond we see in Peter Jackson's trilogy. Whereas here, you're right, he straight up is trying to be friends with everyone. Very likable, I think. I think he is one of the best in any scene he's in. I think he's one of the better guys, better actors in it. So yeah, it's a shame we didn't get him. I actually really like the dwarves as well. I mean, I've been looking forward to proper dwarves for a while now. So I was really happy with the dwarves last episode. But this time around, we got Numenor. And this is the first time we've ever seen Numenor in any visual medium, like movie or show. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it looks like the sad thing is it looks like they did a lot of work on those sets, and if they've moved from New Zealand to England, what does that mean for the future of seeing these sets again?
Now, in terms of like the actual interior sets, hopefully those are going to be like exact. It's those exterior shots where, like when they were horseback riding, or when we were with the Harfoots and we saw just landscapes of them, kind of their caravan, or even those hunters that we encountered when we first saw the Harfoots. Those kind of landscapes. Hopefully they can find similar ones in England. I think they can if they look hard enough, but like it's gonna potentially look different, and that might throw people off. Although we are changing seasons, because that's why the Harfoots are moving their caravan. So you might even be able to pass it off as a change of season. Like the scenery's gonna look slightly different. But yeah, I guess we're gonna have to stay tuned and find out about that. We're not gonna really get that until season 2 anyway. So I don't know how quickly the seasons are going to change in the show. We might even get the seasons changing throughout this season of this TV show. So, we might even already see a change to the scenery that seems unfamiliar to us. I guess just a couple quick things while we end this off. So in terms of this one being a lot more lore and dialogue heavy, how did you feel about that versus like the pacing of the first 2 episodes?
Well, on the one hand, it felt long, but on the other, like, how do I put it? There's a few times where I paused it to see how much was left, and it's because I thought it had to be over soon. Does that make sense?
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
But there's a few points where I thought it's about to end, but then it just kept going. And not in a bad way. I mean, I was glad that it didn't leave on a cliffhanger that I thought they were going to leave it on.
Like I thought they were going to end it with like Halbrand.
Yeah.
So that's at like the 55-ish minute mark, and then we still have another like 15 minutes to go. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I also think that for some casual fans, this is going to be their least favorite episode. The action is very sparse. You get a little bit sprinkled in where the elves are, but everyone else, yeah, Halbrand has a bit of a fight scene, but that's not, you're not watching a Lord of the Rings epic to see a fight like that. Like, that's just supposed to be a character moment more than anything, to show us that Halbrand has some skill in combat.
And it was a little more gory in certain spots too.
They really played up the harshness of those orcs.
Yeah.
I think, we're used to orcs kind of being a bit comedy when they're left alone. You know what I mean? So like when the orcs have captured Merry and Pippin, we're used to them kind of joking around. Yeah, they fight, they infight, but they're not torturing Merry and Pippin. Even though some want to, they don't actually do anything. Whereas here we're seeing like full on like psychological torture, physical torture, like it's, and then like the arm breaking. Yeah, so this one is definitely, they're up in the ante in terms of on-screen violence.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I kind of liked it being more for everyone, because you might not want your younger kids watching that.
True.
And I know people who can't stand gore who would like to see this. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not as bad as Game of
no, it's not nearly as bad as House of the Dragon right now. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think they've upped it a little bit, and that's just probably them trying to keep pace with the trend. Although it's not just gore for gore's sake, which is what the ending of Game of Thrones should have taught people. Like, it needs a purpose, and to me, the Halbrand scene doesn't really have that purpose. The orcs with the elves does, because
it shows their cruelty and makes
I really want the
scary,
orcs, like people. Part of the problem with some people when they watch Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, is the orcs do not frighten them because the orcs seem incompetent. Basically, a couple people can run in and kill hundreds of orcs.
Yeah.
And that's because those people are really skilled, and elves have a little bit of a different ability set. So like there's different things going on there. I wanted these orcs, and I'm glad that we're getting them to be a lot more intimidating, sort of like the Uruk-hai. So when we get to the final battle in Fellowship, we have this idea that goblins and orcs are no match for us. Yes, we faced them in Moria, and we handled them pretty well, and then the troll came, and the troll gave us a bit of trouble. But then we kind of got out of there. But now we're fighting these orcs on in the woods. We're doing okay, and then this big Uruk-hai comes and gives Aragorn a run for his money, 1v1. So I think we need to establish the level of competency of some of the villains, because people are going to have different interpretations of it based on how they watch Peter Jackson's films, especially going to The Hobbit. Because if you go to The Hobbit, the orcs are straight up nothing. So at least here, we're getting a sense of their cruelty, what they're about, and we haven't really seen them in a fight, like a true-on military fight yet. So we don't know their skill level there, but we know that they're hard to kill, and those elves could not just escape. I thought they were going to escape with no problems. I thought that as soon as Arondir jumped in the air, I thought, oh, this is it. Arondir's going to kick some ass and get out. But it did not happen. So I'm glad that these orcs have some confidence behind them. To make a true villain side that I actually am afraid when our characters encounter them. You know what I mean? Like if Elrond comes in contact with some orcs, I'm gonna be scared he might get hurt. Now, obviously, people who know the lore and know anything about the Peter Jackson films know that he's not. But at least in that moment, you're like, oh, something might happen to him because these orcs are truly fierce. In terms of dialogue, though, I still feel like the show throws in lines that they're trying to mimic Tolkien's dialogue, and some of them work this time around, but some of them still miss for me. And so far, it hasn't bugged me enough. I can see how it might bug other people, especially people who watch, Peter Jackson's trilogy for those lines of dialogue from the books. If that's where your true enjoyment comes from, I do feel I can see people starting to maybe check out a little bit and maybe just watch this almost like a Marvel thing just for like the action. But I will say, based on just a quick scroll through Twitter and YouTube, the people who are the biggest fans of Tolkien's work, this is their favorite episode so far.
Okay.
Because it has a lot of lore that at least is partially right in terms of like the founding of Numenor and the history of what will become Mordor, but like the history of that land, and Elrond and his brother and all that stuff. So the fact that it has all that and it's kind of helping world build, a lot of people really liked that aspect of this. But to me, the dialogue is still throwing a lot of people off, and it's getting better, but there's still bits and pieces where it's like you could have just left it as like a normal line. You didn't have to throw in something that is just out of nowhere just to make it a fantasy dialogue. So that's all I want to say on that. I like I said, I'm not too bothered yet, but I do want them to kind of get into a groove with some of these characters' dialogue, because it sometimes it's all over the place. Like even Galadriel, like when she asks savior or captive or captor, that's such a weird way of asking that question. And then Halbrand says it's not poison, at least to human. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not, I don't think that's how they should talk in that setting.
Yeah.
Like Aragorn is cryptic, but at least he explains himself after, even if he's cryptic. So like you can have the cryptic line, but then you still need the normal Aragorn to come out and like be normal. Because like Aragorn even says something like, I can avoid being seen if I wish, but to disappear entirely, that is a rare gift. That's a weird way of phrasing that. Sure, I really personally love that phrasing, but I know some people that they're like, that's weird. Why'd he say that? So at least Aragorn then kind of like gets into like talking with Frodo about like asking who he is, what's he doing, and then we kind of get, after it's all settled down, we get normal Aragorn explaining who these ring wraiths are and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's what's maybe missing from some of these moments of dialogue, because without it, it's just a weird line that, because this isn't in Tolkien's writing, we have nothing.
But you know what? You're actually you made me think about dialogue from the original, and remember when Frodo says to Sam, "I think a servant of Anu would seem fairer but feel fouler."
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how Brand.
Mhm.
I can see he seems foul too.
No, I think he fits the line perfectly. I think you're right.
And he does seem fairer.
He seems fairer.
Feels fouler.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
No, I think you're completely onto something. I never even thought that line never crossed my mind, because I just thought that was Frodo being a goof. You're completely right. He's a perfect fit. I can see them going either way with it, but that fits it perfectly. To see, because like you said, Aragorn at that moment is kind of rough with the hobbits a little bit, and he's telling them some stuff, but he's also being cryptic. He then explains though, and that's the thing. It's like it always comes with an eventual, more normal conversation, where he then explains that they're going to Rivendell to see the elves and all this stuff. So like that's what's missing for me, and I think that's what's missing for a lot of people, because I can pick out any random line of dialogue from the original trilogy, and outside of context, it's gonna sound really weird, and rightfully so. It's an old English style of speaking, but at least when you do that, you need to have the characters at least then come around and bring the audience back into the fold with something a little bit easier to understand, especially for casual fans, because I personally really love the old English dialogue in the original trilogy. Here, some of it is not old English, it's just them kind of throwing words in, and it kind of comes out like a word salad sometimes, which I'll be okay with. I can get into it as long as they then follow up like they do, like Peter Jackson did, with a bit more normal conversation. These characters running around one-lining each other, it feels almost like a stage play at times, where like it's not real conversations, it's just to get information across. And I think that's what's bugging me and some other people. It's clearly not bugging you, but it's bugging casual fans too, because casual fans are like, why are these characters being weird? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to them, they would rather this thing all be in like modern day English, whereas to me that would be awful. But at least if you toe the line that Peter Jackson did, you can get both in, and I think that's the way to go. And right now they're overdoing it on trying to be like this like super otherworldly philosopher when they throw dialogue out, and it just comes out really weird sometimes.
Well, I mean the whole boats look up, rocks look down.
Yeah, that's first line of the freaking thing, and that's what you're gonna throw in. That's not good. That should have been redone. but even like the sea is never wrong, or the sea is always right, or whatever.
Sea is always right. It's cheesy.
It's cheesy.
It sounds like the customer is always right.
Yeah, like that's exactly right. Whereas at least the Iron Men from Game of Thrones, while also theoretically could be cheesy, it doesn't come off as cheesy.
Yeah.
Like it feels more authentic because it's not.
No, what's dead may never die is way more epic. Than
Yeah.
The sea is always right.
The sea is always right. You know what it reminded me of? This is gonna be funny, and maybe I'll throw it into a video. There's a Seinfeld moment where George has a monologue about pulling a golf ball out of a whale.
Oh
The
yeah.
sea was angry my friends that day, like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli. It's like that's what it sounds like to me, and I'm like, just do a better line. That's all you need. Oh.
Yeah.
But even and like the Hobbits, I can't fault them, because the whole idea of the Hobbits is kind of being a little bit more rudimentary, I guess. But their dialogue is straight up wacky. Like,
And we do not sow. That's the other one.
Yeah.
The Greyjoys say. That's a good one.
that's a good one too. Like Greyjoys straight up seem epic from those two lines by themselves. Even though I hate the Greyjoys.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. I mean, there's not too much to unpack here, because the lore, from what I can gather, is pretty darn good in terms of staying somewhat true to Tolkien, at least in the context of the show, like being accurate about Elrond's brother, Numenor's startup. I like the animosity between the cultures, like seeing Numenor basically push back and say, we weren't given anything, we earned this with blood and sweat. Like I like that line, like that's pretty good. So like I like seeing that, and I remember saying at the onset, I think we did like a pre-show once where I said, I need these elves and humans to not like each other, because I'm worried that that's all gonna get toned down and everyone's gonna be a little bit too buddy-buddy. I know Elrond, you can have one-offs like Elrond being open to it, but I can't have all elves being friendly with humans. I can't have all humans being friendly with elves. So I like this animosity that we're seeing. And I like you pointed out earlier, that we've got a bunch of different cultures which are truly different. Like you can watch this and just listen to the music in the background, the dialogue, you'll know right away you're in a different world almost from Numenor to the Harfoots. So I like that they've established that. So far I'm looking forward to these shows every day or every week. And that's something I haven't felt in a long time. And I think you were mentioning that too. We watch a lot of TV, and this is one that I'm paying attention to and really excited about when it drops. So I think that's something to be said.
Yeah.
But let us know in the comments down below what you guys thought, and we will hopefully see you guys next time. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.